In a second series of The Art of the Garden, Piet Oudolf, the Dutch designer who's conquered the world, from English country gardens to New York's High Line, and believes in the beauty of decay.
I like the plants that live a life. And of course, a process is not only the growing process, but also the growing into decay, or anything that you wouldn't appreciate in a classical way of gardening.
Andy Sturgeon, the designer who accepted the challenge of creating gardens in the sky on top of Battersea Power Station.
When I first went there, and there were no roofs on it or anything, and so you just had these huge cavernous spaces that sat in amongst it and looking up at it. You couldn't go up on the roofs, you had to imagine that there'd be these rooftops and you create these gardens on top. But it seemed like fantasy at the time.
And Marie Powell's World Wildlife Garden, helping the Royal Horticultural Society to move with the times.
The Wildlife Garden, it was such a joy for me to be asked to design. Essentially, that's what we're all doing. It's one of the all-embracing facts for gardeners, is that we nurture nature for wildlife.
The Tuscan garden of Luciano Giubbilei, in a landscape unchanged for centuries.
Architecture is such an important part of gardens. The way the elements are placed, the way the eye moves through the elements, are essential part of the feeling of a garden.
Alistair Baldwin's new garden for the finest Renaissance house in Scotland.
There was a richness to the site. What we designers refer to as a palimpsest, a sort of series of layers of interest. It's very powerful.
And Joe Thompson, half English, half Italian, whose public planting schemes have been influenced by Venice.
There is something about the clarity of the light that I get there. Colour is embraced, and colour enhances a sentiment, creates an emotion. I'm a firm believer in the civilising influence of architecture and beautiful spaces.